And we will make a start. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our FDA Export Operations webinar this morning. And we are delighted to be joined by one of our fairly new service provider members, who is called TariffTel. They'll be giving us an insight into what customs compliance, the devil is in the data, and how exporters can make sure that they're complying with custom classification. So we are delighted to be joined by Elizabeth Davis this morning from TariffTel, who will be giving the presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping notes that if you do have any sort of general questions regarding customs classification, please do just pop those in the chat box and we can come back to them at the end of the presentation. As I said, the presentation is being recorded and will be sent round to everybody after for you to share with your teams, etc. So I'm going to hand over to Liz.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Elizabeth Davis. I lead a team of classification experts at TariffTel. And as Mel says, we specialise in customs classification. TariffTel has been around about 15 years, so it's not a new company or new product. We're based in Marylebone in central London. And I'm going to talk today about why the devil is in the data with the classification, the importance of detailed information in customs classification. We work with some of the big retailers, Primark, Marks and Spencer, Boohoo and Asda, to name a few. And we've worked with some of these clients for well over 10 years, providing them a high level of customer service with classification, data accuracy and data storage. I appreciate classification is not the most exciting topic for many people on a cold Wednesday morning, so I'll try not to send you to sleep. I'll share a few slides. Hopefully you might learn something or some hints and tips or learn how we can help you. And we're going to focus generally on the classification around food and drink, so some general classification, then I'll go into some specifics. Just a brief introduction to myself. I've worked at TariffTel for nearly 4 years now, but I've got 28 years of experience in logistics, supply chain and classification, which makes me sound extremely old. Also level 5 qualified in customs. I've worked for 15 years in the automotive industry for Siemens, and then I worked in aerospace, transportation, now retail and software. So I've covered quite a variety of different industries. So the structure of the webinar is I'm going to talk to you about the complexities of classification, like I say, focusing on food and drink, what the solution is, and then a little bit of how AI and new technologies fit into that solution. So this slide's not meant to scare anybody, but this is the reality of classification that we find. When we're looking at potential new clients or talking to them, we usually ask for a subsection of their data to analyse. And we find that on average, 40% of classification codes are incorrect. This can be just purely due to a lack of understanding of classification or interpretation of data or a lack of data of the product that they have. And you can find that they're underpaying or overpaying duty and at risk of an audit, being non-compliant. So, we've talked about data. The data that people think they need is, I'll just go in the tariff book, type in my product, get a description of that, and off I go. That's it. It'll give me the answer. In reality, that doesn't work unless you've got a very basic product like a table or a chair. And especially when we talk about food, which we'll come to a bit later on, the information on the right is more like what people actually need, a very detailed product description, understanding the WCO explanatory notes, understanding the chapter and section notes within the tariff book, understanding GRIs, BTIs, ATRs, rulings, clear understanding of EUENs, keeping up to date with the stop presses that come out, so you understand when the tariff codes are changing, and understanding the tariff classification guides that go along with the tariff book. So there's quite a lot of information there, and it's not in the same place. Some of it you have to subscribe to, so it can become quite complex for people if you've not got a good understanding in this area. We find that people use a tariff code they used last time, which might be wrong in the first place. Nobody knows where it came from. There's no process trail, there's no audit. It can be a little bit of an afterthought classification. It can end up in somebody's role who works in logistics or purchasing or merchandising or a buyer. They end up with it rather than it being a specific person trained in classification. And then we often find, even on, varies the size of the company, even large companies are trying to do classification on an Excel spreadsheet, which when we look at the detail of what we do is absolutely crazy. Your spreadsheet becomes corrupt, you lose the data, your staff changes, somebody gets made redundant, goes on holiday, nobody's updating this spreadsheet, and it just becomes, out of control, really. And like I say, you often then become, you're not compliant, and you don't know where these codes have come from. There's no process behind it. It's a bit like your maths at school, if we go back, is the working out is just as important as the answer. How did you get there? And it's important to note that if you're the importer, you're fully responsible for these codes. So, where do we start? So obviously the starting point is generally the tariff book, and it is a good start. I mean, the example of the product I'm going to use today, the simple example, is a piece of steak. So obviously if you put this in the tariff book, you're not getting very far, really. So it is a good starting point, but it often falls short in delivering this accuracy and consistency that we're talking about. And this interpretation, can lead to varied and sometimes inaccurate results. So you need this guidance, of a trained customs expert to make sure that you're getting it right. So this is a little slide that we put together. So obviously on the left, we're talking about food classification now. Again, what do people think they need? Maybe an ingredients list and a basic product description. And then what people really need on the right-hand side. And this list is not exhaustive because it depends on the product that you're classifying. If we look at their state there, the first one, if you've got meat or fish, what's the state of your product? Is it fresh, frozen, dried? Is it cured? If it's fish, what's the species of fish? What is the percentage of fat in your product? What is that fat? Is it palm oil? Is it butter? What's the percentage of milk fat in the biscuits? Percentage of sugar, percentage of protein. What's the weight of the product? If you've got a chocolate spread, you need to know the weight of the product. How is that product packaged? Is it in an airtight container? So depending on the product, you're going to have to ask different questions per product. And this complexity is for individual products. If you then go down to sort of composite products, such as ready meals, you need to understand your GRIs. If you've got less than 20% chicken in a chicken tikka masala, you could be looking at the rice as the essential character. Or could you have more vegetables? If you've got more than 20%, you'd be going down the chicken. So it's where do you start with these type of products? What questions do you need to ask, and in what order, and what data do you need? So we're going to demonstrate this, we said, with a very simple product. Hopefully I'm not going to make everybody hungry. A nice piece of steak. Apologies to vegetarians. But so we've got two products here that are going into our classification system, let's say. And they've both got exactly the same product description and exactly the same ingredients. But they could be two different tariff codes. So we haven't got enough information here. You would think you have, but you haven't got enough information to classify these products correctly. So one of these is classified as a not prepared meat product, and one of them will be a further prepared. So again, we go back to, let's look at the solution. You can see the two boxes in blue are the products, the information that we did have, the ingredients and product description. And what we really need is to be looking at all these other areas in red, you know, reading these WC explanatory notes, understanding the product more, and an image is really key on this product. So that's just a little bit more about that. So let's go back to the product now. So now we've got two products. Now we've got additional information, more detailed product description. So the top product, chilled British beef, thin cut sirloin steak with 2 peppercorn buttered hearts packaged separately. And that's the key. Those buttered hearts are not touching the meat. Therefore, that product would be classed as a meat product and not further prepared. The bottom example, you can see the peppercorn butter circles placed on top of the steak. And then we come across these products quite a lot now with sauces or with butters, but this meat is further prepared. So this falls to a completely different chapter. And as you can see, the duties are different. So it's these little understandings, it's this detail that we need to understand to get the classification correct. So I'm just going to talk about TariffTel now a little bit about the solution and how we manage these sort of products. You know, how can you make sure you've got all the data you need at the right time? How can you make sure you're looking at all that data, that classification, rules, that guidance, you know, that you're reading all those chapters? Well, we've developed a system that does all that for you, basically. What we do is we integrate into client systems. So the gold standard of our system is we take usually an inbound integration, usually a purchase order. That purchase order is then sent to the suppliers and it creates a product record within TariffTel. And then in TariffTel, we ask those suppliers a series of questions based on that specific product. So we know what questions to ask, as we said before, you know, we can ask the specific questions of, you know, is the butter touching the meat? What percentage of fat has it got? What is the type of butter? Is it palm oil? Is it, you know, our system will be prompting and asking all the correct questions for that product. So it's like a decision tree in the background, really. So all the supplier has to do is answer the questions of their product. They know what their product is. They don't have to have any classification experience or knowledge or read any of these data that, you know, that's all done for them. They just have to answer the questions on the product. It goes into our system, it assigns a commodity code, and then that commodity code is then signed off. So it's a 2-step verification as well. So nobody's marking their own homework now, you know, it's provided a code and somebody else is signing it off. This is the gold standard. We also, when you can't get your suppliers involved, we can integrate directly into master systems. You know, we can upload spreadsheets. So there is various ways we can get information into and out of TariffTel. The essential bit is the engine in the middle where it's doing all the work for you. So we're providing a seamless integration option really that tailored to people's business needs. And against these products, obviously there's full traceability and a full audit of who answered what question and when, and who signed that tariff code off. So you've got a full audit product history on every product. And then what we do as well is we make sure that obviously we keep abreast of all the tariff code changes and all the stop presses. So already, for example, we know tomatoes is changing, you know, we're already preparing our Marks and Spencer, one of our big clients, to identifying all their products where the tariff codes could be changing on the 1st of January. And we do all that work for them, identify that and work with them to make sure that those codes are changed at the right time so that you don't get any delay. So it's a centralized system, like I say, it's storing all your product data. You can always store images, you can store documents, and everything. So you've got like a product passport really for each product within that system. And then exciting news is for next year, we are launching TariffTel 2, which is our brand new system. So we're keeping all the good stuff of the system that we've got, but it's going to be cloud-based and in Azure. And we've really focused on this ease of collection of data from suppliers or from master systems to make it a smoother, simpler process. So we're enriching the data. Regarding Marks and Spencer, obviously, you know, we provide all the customs support and expertise with our clients. So we don't just give them the system. You know, if there's any queries regarding specific tariff codes or they want to discuss specific products, then we provide that service as well, and we support that. If you're interested, there's a recent case study on our website that you can look at with our work with Marks and Spencer. So if we go back to the stake now in TariffTel, it's as simple as this. You know, we make it this simple. You know, the background isn't this simple. There's quite a lot of complex decision trees and work that goes into the background, but we try and make it easy for the client and for the suppliers. So, you know, the data would be fed into the system, purchase orders raised, suppliers ask questions about that product. In this case, we've asked them if it's prepared meat, is the butter touching the steak, it's uncooked. They'll answer the questions, it assigns the commodity code, and then it gets signed off. So they're not having to, if we go back briefly, do all this. All they're doing is answering questions about their product. They don't have to do any of this information. This was all done by the system. So this just demonstrates how simple it can be. You know, it's a methodical approach to minimise errors and ensure compliance and manage your duty classifications. So we need something to swill that stake down with. So if we just talk about just a couple of other general just classification things regarding food. This is one of our favourites again, is sangria that comes up. You know, where does sangria go? You know, is it a red wine? So, you know, some people think it's a red wine. It's made using red wine. So should it be classified in 2204 under red wine? But if you read the WCO explanatory notes to heading 2204, it excludes beverages on the basis of wine. So it can't fit there. So we'd then look at 2205 then. It's got a basis of wine. Would it fit there? But if you read additional chapter note 8, 2205, it can only go there if it's got an ABV percentage of 7 or above. So this is 5%. So now we're going to 2206. So it's going through this methodical process, you know, and answering all these questions to make sure that your product is in the right place, because it's very easy to get it wrong. I mean, chocolate is another example. You know, if you just went into one chapter of chocolate, if you just went into 1806, you know, your chapter note says any product containing cocoa is classified in 1806. But if you look in 1905, it'll tell you can be in that chapter whether or not you've got cocoa. So your chocolate cake is going to be in 1905, but if you're just in 1806 on its own, you've been told that everything chocolate is there. So you need to, across the chapters, you know, there's very different, because you've got a definitive note in one chapter, that isn't always the correct answer. So if we look at the consequences of getting it wrong, nobody wants to get it wrong. You know, nobody gets it wrong intentionally, as we've seen. It's very complex. But you can have border delays. You know, it can cause disruption to your supply chain, impact your business, and not, you know, not be able to deliver products to your customers on time. If it's food, it could be perishable food. It could be an absolute disaster. You could end up losing a truckload of food. Your reputation damage with customers or suppliers or even authorities can lead to loss of business, lack of product on the shelves, especially this time of year with Christmas, when everybody wants to start stocking up. You know, you can be open to fines, £2,500 per incorrect classification. You could be overpaying on your classifications if they're not correct. that's eating into your profit margin. Or you could be underpaying and then you get audited and then you go back 3 years and have to pay all that additional duty you should have paid at the time. And that could massively affect your business. Sorry? Oh, sorry. And obviously, always if you need to have your process and everything ready in case you get audited, like we said, nobody is doing it wrong on purpose. It's very easy, and you can see from this presentation, how you need that detail, and it's very easy to get it wrong. So it's important that you have a system or a process in place that you can show in case of an audit, how did you reach that classification? Show your working out, show your maths, really. So just a little bit about AI. We don't use AI. Obviously, our system is built by experts. It's managed by experts. In our new system, we will be using a bit of machine learning and everything about that ease of collection of data. For food products, AI customs classification is extremely hard, as I've shown, unless you have a really basic product. You're going to struggle. Like, say, if you've got a table or chair or lipstick, you might be able to use an AI type system. But in food, you are really going to struggle. These are just some screenshots of my system. I won't dwell on those. Basically, that's it, really. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions, probably not on specific classifications, because just shown there, it would take about another hour to discuss the product. We're going to be at the Food and Drink Show in March next year. We're offering a classification clinic, see how healthy your codes are, and we can help and support you there. We're also at the Import and Export Show on the 3rd of December in London, if anybody's there. So please come and talk to us, and if we can help you. I hope you've learned a little bit there this morning, but that's it, really.
Thanks, Liz. That was really that's a great insight into the complexities of what companies have to go to get the right classification for their products. If anybody does have a question, if you want to just unmute yourselves and ask away, now's your chance.
Hi, it's Kate from Bar Soft Drinks. It's just a quick one. What's the difference between the TariffTel and using the HMRC's advanced ruling tariff? Because I did have to go down that route for one of our juices, and they come back with the classification code that they recommended, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you can send emails to HMRC and get advice for free, and they'll give you a classification code. I'd be a little bit dubious about that. Without being
Yeah.
If you apply for advanced tariff ruling, obviously that's binding, and you're safe with that, but you have to pay for that, so you're not always going to want to go down that route, really.
Right. Okay.
You want to be able to find a system that's giving you those codes, you're already fully encompassing and paying for the process, rather than if you've got a lot of products, you don't want to have to pay for an ATR on every single product.
Good to know. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate. Any other questions? No, I think looks like everybody's happy. Oh, somebody just unmuted themselves to speak. No. Yes, so as I said, the webinar has been recorded, and TariffTel will be joining the Exporters Hub at IFE. So it'd be great to have them there. So do come along if you are going to the trade show, and speak to them there if you've got any other questions about your customs classification codes. FDA will also be on the Exporters Hub at IFE, and will be managing the content in the Exporters Hub Theatre. It seems a bit early to be talking about IFE in March, but always good to know and be abreast of these things well in advance. And yes, so I'll also send Liz's contact details and her slides as well. And you can revisit these on the FDA member portal in the resource library, where we have all details of all our webinars, past webinars, of which we've done quite a lot this year. So please do have a look through there just to see if there's anything that you may have missed and might be of interest to you. Just in terms of the last few things on our programme, before Christmas, we have a export operations webinar next week on Monday regarding supply chain risk and looking at sustainable solutions, and that's with Atradius and Attis Credit Solutions. Then we also have our new in-market expert for Latin America joining us on Wednesday afternoon to talk about opportunities for UK products in Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. So we're interested to see what they have to say. And then also a reminder that the FDA Export Forum takes place on the 5th of December. If you haven't booked your tickets already, please do go online and book them ASAP, because ticket sales will be closing soon. We've got a great lineup. So in the morning, we have speaker sessions, and we've got IGD looking at global market forecasts, FDF. We've got a buyer for Central Food Group Asia, Nick Reitmeyer, talking about where he sees opportunities for UK brands. AG Barr will be joining us to do a case study on how they expanded their business in the US. And we'll also be joined by Tikit, who will be looking at opportunities in the travel sector for UK food and drink. So really great morning lineup. Then lots of networking. We'll be joined by lots of our FDA service provider members, and our in-market experts will all be there to do presentation about their markets, and also available to talk about any questions that you might have with their areas of expertise. And then in the afternoon, it's lunch and the presentation of the FDA Export Awards. So that will be another great event, and we're really looking forward to that. So please do go online and book your tickets if you haven't already. I think that's it. So just finally wanted to say thank you to Elizabeth for joining us today and giving us a presentation about TariffTel and their services. Definitely sounds like they can take the headache out of customs classification. So yeah, please do get in touch if you'd like to find out more about their services. So all that's left now is for me to say goodbye, and thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.